Starting from issue number 16, readers are given a glimpse into the backstory of Tails, after it's revealed that his homeland is a hidden zone filled with swords and sorcery, a place simply called the Nameless Zone. The story begins with Sonic and Tails running through the Emerald Hill Zone, though Tails struggles to keep up the pace with his speedy friend. But rather than Sonic slowing down, he decides to stop and tell Tails that he is in a hurry and doesn't need anyone holding him back. When Tails tries to say something back, he is cut off by Sonic telling him to just stay out of his way for once. Wow, what a dick. Almost immediately afterwards, Tails is interrupted by an ominous voice directly behind him. When he turns around, he sees a glowing green portal hovering above. He reveals that this is the portal to the Nameless Zone, and something he has always been afraid of. Tails decides to face his past and he steps into the portal, where he is greeted by two other foxes known as the Enchanter Kings, who welcome him home. Once through the portal, the Enchanter Kings reveal that word of Tails' great deeds on Mobius has reached even them. It turns out that Tails has been sending letters back to his family, saying it is he who constantly foils Robotnik's plans, and that Sonic was only his assistant helping with his great deeds. Tails repeatedly tries to explain that he lied in his letters, but he either can't get the words out or he is interrupted before he can do so. The Enchanter Kings are so caught up in preparing Tails for his mission, though they never actually say what the mission is, that they don't seem to hear his protests. They lead him to a room where they gift him with a set of magical battle armour, something strong enough to protect him and enchanted to weigh no more than a feather. The scene cuts to a place known as the Dimension Bridge, located at the edge of the Nameless Zone. A fearful beast named Trog stands there demanding the Fox Gods show their champion so he can face them in battle. Eventually, Tails and the Enchanter Kings arrive, and finally they explain to Tails what they want him to do. Tails, the supposed hero of Mobius, must fight with Trog to protect the zone. If he loses, Trog and his army will be free to invade and conquer the zone, though at this point it's not made clear why Trog and his army can't just cross anyway. But we will find that out later on. Tails steps forward onto the bridge while Trog laughs at the sight before him, saying that beating their champion will be easier than he thought. Trog, confident in his own abilities, gives Tails a chance, telling him to take his best shot. So Tails raises his sword and completely misses. Trog retaliates by giving Tails a swift kick to the balls. Oh come on, look at the positioning here, that's definitely a kick to the balls. Trog raises his sword and swings it down at Tails, but as he does so the weak ropes of the bridge give way and the two lose balance, falling into the abyss below. Trog grabs the rope of the bridge and holds on tight, thinking that Tails wasn't so lucky and must have fallen to his death. We soon find that nothing of the sort happened as Tails flies upwards. He demands that Trog surrenders, otherwise he could easily cut the rope and let him fall to his doom. We can only assume that Trog does indeed surrender, as the next thing we see is Tails flying back up to the top of the bridge, where he is greeted by a cheering crowd. With the threat to the Nameless Zone now gone, the portal back to the Emerald Hill Zone is reopened, and Tails wastes no time in jumping through. His magic armour, however, cannot leave with him, so it is instead kept by the Enchanter Kings in case they ever need to call their champion again. Once home, Tails is greeted by Sonic, who seems quite pleased that Tails finally decided to stay out of his way. We don't have to wait long to see the Nameless Zone again, as in the very next issue, the portal once again opens. The Enchanter Kings call for their hero, who immediately comes to their aid. As soon as Tails enters the zone, his magic armour forms around his body, and the Enchanter Kings get straight to the point, telling Tails that they need his help once more. This time he is tasked with rescuing a fox named Shirob, the third Enchanter King. Tails seems surprised by this, as he thought there were only 2 Enchanter Kings left arrived after Shirob mysteriously vanished years ago. The Enchanter Kings explain what happened in the past. They talk about how Shirob disappeared just before Trog first arrived in the zone, supposedly killed by the foul beast. Trog was eventually defeated and banished across the Dimension Bridge into a place known as the Land Beyond. But now, the Enchanter Kings have received some evidence that Shirob is still alive and being held captive by Trog. They received a weak message from him when his face appeared in the magic crystal of communication. Now that Tails knows the situation, he is almost ready to set out on his mission, but first there's another surprise in store for him. The Enchanter Kings call in their bravest warrior to accompany him, a fox named Errol Blackthorn. The two set out on their journey across the newly restored Dimension Bridge. Tails mentions that when they reach the other side, they'll have to fight the enemy's champion, but Errol points out that fighting the champion is only part of the Enchanter King's spell designed to keep them safe from anyone who may try to cross the bridge, and that the same doesn't apply to people crossing into the land beyond. But even so, when they do reach the other side, they are greeted with all manner of evil creatures who are prepared to stop them. Errol begins fighting off the enemy while Tails stands there unmoving. He says he's waiting for the right moment to attack, but when the enemy comes, he flies up into the air. As he escapes the attack, Tails lets slip that him being a hero is all a big mistake. Errol continues fighting off the enemy until they finally give in and retreat to safety, finding that they are no match for the Fox Warrior. Once the battle is over, he confronts Tails, wanting to know more about this mistake. Tails finally admits the truth about everything, that he wanted his family to know that he was doing well on his own, and that he wasn't the one who repeatedly defeated Robotnik. Errol says that it's his duty to inform the Enchanter Kings about everything, but for now they must both continue on with their mission. The two reach the entrance to a labyrinth where Shirob is being held captive, but luckily Errol has studied maps of the tunnels and is confident that he can navigate his way through. But as they turn a corner, they are greeted by another large beast. They turn and run, hoping to shake off the enemy, but unfortunately they are chased to the edge of a huge pit. In their haste, they fall right over the edge and begin falling to their doom. Luckily, this is where Tails' ability to fly comes in handy. He grabs Errol and the two float safely down to the bottom. They land among a pile of old bones and hope that whatever picked them clean is long gone. Of course, they aren't so lucky as a loud growl echoes through the area. It's then that a weak voice calls out to them from across the room. When they turn around, they find what they're looking for, Shirob. Though the third Enchanter King is currently chained to a sacrificial altar, ready for whatever beast is still living down there. It's going to take some time, but Errol gets to work on trying to free Shirob from his bindings. It doesn't take long for the beast that inhabits the pit to come and investigate the commotion. It reveals itself as some sort of blob monster. Errol speeds up his efforts, smashing a rock harder and harder against Shirob's chains, eventually breaking through the links. With Shirob now free, the foxes try to make their escape. They run as fast as they can towards the room's exit and back to the labyrinth's tunnels. But the beast gives chase, furious that the intruders have stolen his meal. The gap between the monster and the foxes closes, and soon enough Tails stops and says the only chance for any of them is if someone stays to fight. Errol tries to protest, but Shirob grabs him and the two of them continue their escape while Tails buys some time. The beast catches up and takes a flying leap towards Tails. Bert manages to slam headfirst into a low-hanging rock from the ceiling. Well, that was lucky. Tails catches up to the others, who are surprised that he is still safe. Shirob is now leading the group, as he claims to have greater knowledge of the tunnels due to his years of being imprisoned there. But as they move, Errol is almost positive that they're heading deeper underground. When they enter a larger room, they are ambushed by a group of creatures who seem to be waiting for them. Yes, Shirob has led them straight into a trap. Tails and Errol are confused. They ask Shirob why he would ever do something like this. But Shirob reveals the truth behind everything. His body starts to warp and change, taking on a form that Tails is far more familiar with. Shirob was in fact Trog all along. Tails can't seem to wrap his head around what's happening, but Trog is more than happy to explain. It turns out that Trog was in fact the third Enchanter King at one point in the past. He was the eldest of them all, and his magic was far more powerful than anything the others possessed. One dark night, however, one of his spells caused him to make contact with a creature known as the Evil One. Whatever happened in that time changed him forever. It drove him mad and caused him to take on the form of Trog, leading everyone to believe that Trog had in fact killed him. After what happened between he and Tails on the Dimension Bridge, he hatched a plan to change back into Shirob and make contact with the other two Enchanter Kings, knowing that they would call on Tails again as their mightiest champion to come and rescue him. Tails becomes angry, furious that all of this was nothing more than a plan to get revenge on him. He takes every ounce of bravery he can muster and charges to attack Trog, but Trog easily punches away the flying fox, sending him flying back across the room. Trog starts inching closer, ready to strike his enemy down, but before he's able to do it, a bright light fills the room. The Enchanter King's portal opens up nearby, and in the confusion, Tails and Errol quickly make their escape through it, barely dodging Trog's sword which comes hurtling towards them. The two end up back in the Enchanter King's sanctum. Even the enchanters are surprised to see them return, but they realise that it's because they can only keep Tails inside the Nameless Zone for a short period of time. The portal automatically opened to call him back, ready to be sent home. Before they can send Tails back, however, Errol has something he must tell everyone. This is it. Tails' secret is about to be revealed. But, to his surprise, Errol doesn't do any such thing. Instead, he tells the Enchanter Kings about how brave Tails acted in the labyrinth, and how he would never have made it back without his help. With Tails' time in the zone running out, however, he takes his leave and steps back through the portal into the Emerald Hill Zone. That is, until the champion of the Nameless Zone is needed once again.